And with us right now, we've got Jennifer Shaw. Jennifer, you are the co-founder and co-CEO of freewill.com. And I am so excited to share this with my Savings Angel audience because you guys have cracked the code. Wills and estate planning is historically a pretty expensive thing. And so when somebody says, wait a minute, did he just say free will? And so, Jennifer, please tell us what freewill.com does.
So we get the same reaction all the time. People think, how could you possibly provide estate planning for free? But that's exactly what we do. So we provide people an online website where they can go and complete their will, healthcare directive, power of attorney, funeral wishes, and soon revocable living trusts, all 100% free. Usually the process takes about 20 minutes or less, and people can do it from the comfort of their own homes, which is pretty different from most people's impression of estate planning, right?
Yeah.
You think couple $1,000, going to have to find a lawyer and see them in person, get billed by the hour, get asked super personal and perhaps uncomfortable questions. And to get to skip that entire process and have a free, really easy to understand, no legalese way of completing your really important estate plan to keep your family safe is really incredible. So we've gotten great feedback.
So there's probably two things that the person listening to us or watching us right now is thinking. Number one, is this some sort of an advertisement? No, it's not. We just connected, and I absolutely love the fact, like, everyone needs to have a family will. Like, you absolutely must have a family will. I mean, it's just a part of adulting. That I will go so far as to say it is not fair to the people, any of your other family members, if you don't put your estate plan in place. So, number one, no, this is not any kind of this. I'm really genuinely this passionate about this service. And number two, Jennifer, and this one's going to be on you. Wait a minute, there's some kind of catch. What's going on here?
So there's no catch. The product is 100% free. And one might ask, well, how does this organization exist? So what we do is we make money by partnering with nonprofits, super high impact organizations, including everyone from the American Red Cross and the Heart Association to United Ways across the nation. We partner with over 300 nonprofits in order to help support what's called planned giving fundraising. What this means is we make it really easy for their donors to be able to leave gifts to charity when they pass away, establishing not just protections for their family, but also their legacy. You know, how do they want the world to be after they leave this planet? What legacy and mission do they want to stand for? And these nonprofits help support Free Will to exist by paying us on an annual subscription basis for the product. And what that means is we don't get any money dependent on who makes a will with us, whether or not they leave money to charity, anything like that. But rather, it's a way for us to support the nonprofit community as well as giving people this incredible free product.
So this is really amazing because I would imagine that if someone is just kind of given a will kit and, you know, an attorney to run that through, you know, if they're not prompted, they probably, I don't know what percentage of people would actually start naming charities in their will. But I would imagine through the free will process, the charities are much more likely to be included in estate giving.
That's exactly right. The statistics here are clear. So one, most lawyers do not prompt charitable giving through the process. Two, people through free will, when they are prompted, are incredibly generous. They donate 7 times more on our website than the national average. So that is incredibly exciting to us and just goes to show that there's so much latent intent, I think, from people to do good and give back. You know, this is a document and process that people used to think is very scary, and in fact is a reflection of one's values. And people actually, you know, really appreciate, we've heard, getting to reflect on that and getting to give back in this way.
So, Jennifer, do you have any idea about like what the average cost of will might be for a family? Like, what is the process typically like?
Great question. So the process is typically that even for a basic will, the charge is anywhere between $500 to $1,000. As you get more complex, this can easily be in the thousands of dollars. So for example, setting up a revocable living trust, which is a product we're going to launch this year, will usually cost people at minimum a couple $1,000s and then ongoing maintenance in order to help support that trust over time. In addition, it usually takes people a couple months, right? You're going to have to go visit a lawyer in person, go back and forth with the documents multiple times, coordinate with your family members. And each time the lawyer's kind of charging you oftentimes for that time. And so it kind of creates a high pressure situation where you feel like, whoa, if I'm not using every hour, to the best of my ability, I'm getting charged for this. And that can create kind of weird incentives. So one thing that we've heard is really nice is, people just start and stop the product whenever they want in order to get that feedback, and they just don't feel the same kind of pressure in the process.
Now, also included at freewill.com, people not only can get a will, but they can actually get a living will or a advanced healthcare directive and power of attorney. And I know you're not an attorney, right?
Not an attorney.
Okay, so give me the non-attorney, because I don't want to ask a legal question here, but generally, what are those two additional, they're not a rider, but those two additional directives or documents, they're very, very important. And I would argue just as important as having a will because, I'll let you explain it and I'll talk about why I think it's so critical. Again, everyone has a power of attorney and a living will put in place.
Yeah. So these are two incredibly important legal documents. What they do is they say, hey, in the case that I am ever incapacitated, and therefore what that means is not able to voice my opinions or make decisions for myself. So say I'm very sick, I'm in the hospital, who is it who's going to pay my rent and make sure I don't get kicked out? Right after a long medical procedure? Who is it who is making really important decisions around whether or not I should be resuscitated, right? Or if a certain really expensive medical treatment is worth it. These are extremely emotional and financially complex decisions. And most people who don't have these directives in place are kind of leaving it to chance. They're kind of leaving their family to guess what they wanted. And that ends up being a lot of pressure and really hard. And so what we've seen in the past couple decades is so much support, especially from the doctors and the medical community, that people get directives in place such that, a process that, shouldn't have made them miss paying their credit card bills or unable to kind of move home after being in the hospital or avoided a treatment that the person really didn't want doesn't happen anymore. And so these documents too usually take people, 10 to 15 minutes. You fill out the questionnaire online, you print it, and you sign it with the same witnesses that you would the will. So end to end, just adding an extra 10 minutes to tell your family what your real values are around these topics are incredibly impactful and could save them, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars to get right.
Wow. So I guess, one final question, just in terms of like the service is, is this going to be a just a cookie cutter will that's not going to stand up in court, or like, are there any limitations here where it's like, ooh, gosh, no, it's kind of a will, but I get, right? It's like, it's not like this is being cranked out by an intern in a cubicle somewhere. I mean, these are actually, you have attorneys that are doing this work.
That's right. We work with attorneys across all of the states in the U.S. in order to develop a best-in-class product. And, one thing that we've learned throughout the process that I didn't even know before is even if you go see an attorney today, oftentimes they're kind of mad libsing together wills anyway. And there's a lot of human error that can come out of that. Our software makes sure that that doesn't happen. And so if you have more basic needs, the will is 100% legal and secure. If you have more complex needs, you can actually go through the process and our software will alert you that you have more complex needs and help you find a local attorney and use all that work that you put into the product to print out documented wishes that you can take to that attorney and still end up saving time and money because you were able to do that planning yourself ahead of time. So really, it's a software solution that's available for everyone, regardless of their background. And it is our mission and duty to make sure that everyone gets the right solution for them. Technology doesn't solve 100% of cases, but it can help get people into the right frame of mind and know when to bring in, attorneys who are qualified when they need them.
And just one other question, Jennifer, and that is the difference generally between a living will a will and a trust. Trust would likely be if your holdings are a little bit more complex, right?
That is a general rule of thumb. So trusts are also legal documents. They actually usually set up a separate entity in which you move all your assets, usually during the course of when you're alive. And there are a couple things that are different about wills and trusts. Wills start usually being acted upon after you pass away, whereas trusts are kind of oftentimes living entities that you interact with, while you're still alive. Trusts are oftentimes much more complex, much more expensive, and take quite a bit of maintenance. Yeah. Wills are just updated, and the last will that you make is your last wishes that stand. So they're very different products that are, suitable for different needs. For example, if you have a child with special disabilities, you might want to put a trust in place in order to make sure that they get the assets that you intend for them at the right time in the way that you hope that it's delivered. Yeah. So we don't pretend to be, attorneys giving legal advice. That's not what Free Will is here for. But we do help people understand, hey, I have this special circumstance that might mean that I need a trust.
Well, you have a really great learning section at freewill.com/learn, where it actually, that's how I knew to ask the question. There's there's a whole, you've got dozens of articles here that will kind of go through everything and help people if you listen, I could just tell you right now, like, if you don't have a will, get a will. If you don't have a living will and a power of attorney, get a living will and a power of attorney. If you need a trust, that's something you can look at down the road. And this trust can always supersede this. But what you don't want to do is take no action because you're confused on what your best course of action is. It's going to be too expensive to find out the answer to that. Get the will. Just get the will. I'm not your attorney speaking. I'm your friendly consumer advocate telling you, get a will. Just get that done. Get your living will. Get your get your power of attorney put in place, and then basically once you base camp there, then you can make some decisions on what you want to do in the future moving forward. So that's my non-legal consumer advocate advice right there. Jenny, one thing, Jennifer, I wanted to ask you about was the good that you've done for charities. A lot of this, obviously, people are doing their wills, and so they may, that contribution may not happen for decades. But how much has been pledged so far through Free Will?
So we are approaching $1 billion pledged to charity, which has been so exciting.
You think about that, like, that's $1 billion in charitable giving that, a very small fraction of that, I mean, is probably all we would have had, knowing what we know about the statistics. And so congratulations on that. That is a lot of good in the world. And, if we're not here to do good in the world, then why are we here? So I want to say congratulations on that. That's fantastic. And you've done getting on close to 100,000 wills. So nearly 100,000 people have taken advantage of freewill.com and gotten their will done. All I got to say, Jennifer, is thank you so much for making this available and just making it so accessible for people to get their estate planning done. Again, as a consumer advocate, I'm very emphatic about this because I've been witness to, I've heard stories about if you don't have a will in place, it can be a complete nightmare for your surviving family. Everyone starts fighting over things. And those fights can last forever, till death, just simply because someone didn't have the forethought to say, well, I don't have a lot, but whatever. I'm just going to go ahead and make sure people know what I want to have happen when I do pass. So this is wonderful. I'm so excited about this.
Thank you so much for saying that, Josh, and thank you for the time chatting today.
Awesome. So again, Jennifer Shaw, you are the co-founder and co-CEO of freewill.com. You guys have been talked about in Forbes, AARP, New York Times, Good Housekeeping. You've done close to 100,000 wills already, and you have facilitated nearly $1 billion committed to charity. Jennifer, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Josh.
I mean, it's just a part of adulting.